Hey, what's up, everybody? I wanted to do a kind of a different review for you guys today on the Killer Instinct SWAT XP. Instead of a shooting or specs type of review, I wanted to do a huntability review. I took this bow out for my first hunt on October 1st, and that dude that you see on the screen is the buck that I shot. So I had a great experience with it. I ended up shooting this buck at 5 yards. It was an awesome hunt, and I really got to take in some more data points and things on this bow after actually hunting with it for the first time. So I kind of want to go over the positives and negatives that I experienced with my first hunt, and then kind of summarize, how I feel about this bow after it's been in the woods with me one time here. So if we go to, we're going to start with the positives. Broadhead accuracy. And I apologize to you guys. I told you I was going to do a broadhead video. I tried. I was constantly running out of light trying to get my kid to bed, and my buddies took my broadhead target and some other things. So once I got things kind of sighted in and resharpened, I didn't do a broadhead video. I apologize. But broadhead accuracy is excellent out of this bow. And I will put a little bit of a disclaimer on it, is that this bow absolutely shines if you have a tuned bolt. If you knock tune, if you figure out what weight it likes. I'm shooting the Sirius Phoenix bolts with kind of a not typical crossbow broadhead in the cutthroat 150 grain single bevel broadhead, and it shoots this thing, I mean, better than I would have expected it to. It's awesome. It's excellent, but I did tune this bolt for that, and we'll kind of get into some more of the tuning in a minute. But broadhead accuracy is phenomenal. You're going to have probably better broadhead accuracy than a traditional rail style bow. And man, if you take the steps to tune your bolt and the weight and everything to the bow, it absolutely shines. The balance and maneuverability, being a mostly tree stand hunter, I would say I hunt 75% from a tree, 25% from a blind or just on the ground. It is extremely balanced, nice and tight. That buck that I shot, I'm facing you guys. I had to shoot him kind of back, kind of over my shoulder like this, and I had to hold the bow. My video camera was on top of the bow, so I was holding this bow like this for quite a while, and it was comfortable. It, didn't feel bulky. It didn't feel front heavy like a lot of crossbows do. The balance of maneuverability in the tree stand was excellent. And kind of with that, another thing that I like to do, I'm going to try to put my sling on without knocking this headset off here, that I also really like, with it being only 27 inches long, is I like to put my single point sling just over my neck when I'm sitting in my tree stand. And this bow just sits on your lap. You can be hands-free if you're calling, if you're checking your phone, if you're having to do other stuff. It sits and balances really, really nice on your lap with that single point sling as well. So maneuverability in the tree is very, very good. I was really, really happy with how it did. With the 360-degree enclosed rail system, the bolt was really protected, really secure. I walked through quite a bit of crap before I picked the spot that I was going to hunt. I actually wanted to get in deeper into the swamp, where I was going to set up, ended up bumping a couple of deer, but I walked through a bunch of BS, and my bolt never came out. Same thing with the quiver, kind of being up on the top and parallel to the bow. It just helped. I've definitely had times where I've walked through a bunch of stuff and I get to my tree stand, or where I'm going to hang a tree stand, and a bolt's missing out of my quiver, or the bolt that was on my rail is now gone. That's something that, it sucks anytime that happens. So the 360 degrees enclosed, walking through some nasty stuff, bolt was perfectly protected, ready to go as soon as I, climbed up my tree. The trigger, I've talked about the trigger on my first video. It was great. I didn't flinch at all. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, when you've got a trigger that's got creep, or you've got something else that you've been shooting that has a better trigger, a crisper trigger than your crossbow. I've had it where, actually with my muzzleloader, I was shooting a rifle a whole bunch, switched the muzzleloader season and took my muzzleloader out. That trigger had creep, and it kind of freaked me out, and I ended up putting a bad shot on a buck. This has no creep. I put pressure on the trigger when I needed to, and the bow just went off. I didn't have time to flinch. I didn't flinch. In the heat of the moment, that trigger was absolutely money. And I really, really like that because I'm not the best shot. I will admit that when, your heart's pumping and everything's happening, having a trigger that is just going to break clean as soon as you put pressure on it, phenomenal. And the bow is fast. The bow is really, really fast. So my other videos, I've always gone off the speed ring for speed. I don't have a chronograph, so we're doing the same thing here. So this is a 22-inch Sirius Phoenix bolt. It weighs 535 grains, I believe, with a 110 grain insert and the 150 grain broadhead. It's the same bolt that Chad is shooting on. It was my Ripper 415. It's now his. This bow is shooting it at 370 per the speed ring. His is shooting it at 330. So it is fast for a 22-inch bolt. I mean, it shoots the stock ones that are 400 grains. It's got to be right at the 415. But for it to sling these, close to 550 grain bolts at 370, it's awesome. It is a great hunting setup when you load it up with a heavier bolt. So let's go now to the negatives. It requires a special nock. That's probably the biggest negative for me. So it requires a KI, they call it the arc nock. So it's an aluminum nock. It doesn't have, kind of the pie shape cut out of it. It is just a rounded aluminum nock, and you have to glue it in. So with that, you don't have a lighted nock setup, which I really, really like. I like to be able to see that bolt fly through my scope, easily recover the bolt. So not having a lighted nock option, I mean, when you're hunting or when you take the shot, I guess it's not that big of a deal, but it's the post-shot recovery, trying to figure out, do you need to wait? Where did you hit it? Can I find my bolt? That is something that I would really like to see KI come out with, a arc nock that is a lighted nock. With that, being that it's a special nock and you got to glue it in, it makes the Ranch Fairy style bolt and arrow tuning that we now really like to do more difficult, because your stock bolts, they come glued in. They are difficult to get out. You obviously have to get the knock out to be able to knock the insert out. So some of that stuff, that was a little bit of a pain. It was a little bit more steps to get this bolt tuned. I actually ended up tuning it through a different bow first and then just gluing the nocks in, which is not something that I really want to do, or probably not something that you guys want to do. But if nock tuning, heavy arrow setups, or tuning your bolt is not your thing, and you just want to, shoot what comes with the bow, pick your, number 1, 2, 3, or 1 through 6 or whatever, and shoot the best one first, it's probably not going to be a big deal for you. The safety at the end of the stock, this isn't that big of a deal. It's just something that you're going to have to kind of ingrain in your brain, that when the moment of truth is happening, that you're not going to reach right above the trigger guard and flip that safety with your thumb or flip that safety with these two fingers. I kind of ingrained in my brain that when this bow is sitting on my lap, that I want to pick it up. I want to flip the safety with the hand that's going to go on the trigger, flip that first, and then get my hand around the trigger. It just feels to me a little weird to be right here and then kind of trying to have to reach back and flip the safety here, or take this hand off and flip it. It's not a huge deal. It's just more muscle memory for when you're going to hunt with this bow. When you're shooting it in the backyard, you probably don't really care and notice it. But when the adrenaline's pumping and that buck's coming in and you don't have a lot of time, you're definitely going to want to just ingrain that in your brain, practice it. It's not above the trigger, it's back on the stock. So I'm going to call that a negative just because it's kind of retraining your brain. And then finally, the factory bolts, I'm just putting on here that they're average. There's nothing wrong with them. I got them to shoot good, but I got this bolt to shoot, I mean, just absolutely lights out. So just know that those factory bolts are going to be about what you would expect, in my opinion, maybe a little bit better than what you would expect from a packaged bow. They are 400 grains. They measure, or they weigh in really, really well at the advertised weight. The nocks come pre-glued. I mean, they're a quality bolt. but they're not a premium bolt. So if you want to shoot those and you want to just try to match broadheads to them or shoot expandables, you're going to be fine. If you want to kind of tinker a little bit more with some of the bigger fixed blades, single bevels, some things that got some, wind resistance at the front of them where it's normally not going to fly that great and you're going to need to do a little bit of tinkering, then I would definitely recommend something like a Sirius Phoenix or some other type of premium bolt to really get that broadhead accuracy where you want it. So all in all, you guys, this bow, I mean, the positives outweigh the negatives. Really for me, I just want to see KI come out with a non-glue-in nock and a lighted nock. That is going to make my life, I mean, that will make this bow almost perfect. Because I really, really like that. I really like being able to tune. I really like being able to know exactly where my bolt hit and know exactly where I can find my bolt when it's sitting there in the ground. So I know how to approach recovery. But outside of that, I mean, the other stuff I got over, the huntability, the accuracy, the speed, the trigger. I mean, all of that stuff is excellent. So retrain your brain with the safety, kind of get over the lighted nock thing or wait for him to come out with it. And this bow is a monster. The huntability, kind of like I said, it is small, it is compact, it is really easy to maneuver in a tree stand. It's really well balanced. Walking through brush, you're not going to lose your bolt that's on there or have it, come off of the string a little bit, move around where a shot could be erratic. You're not going to have to worry about that. So all in all, this is an excellent hunting crossbow, an excellent tree stand hunting crossbow. I highly recommend it. I think you guys will really, really like it. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. Good luck out there in the deer woods. And remember, be a sportsman, make a sportsman.